Seth Trimble is back, and his return unlocks everything Carolina needs to be elite.
This is Tyler Zeller, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Monday, December 22nd, 2025. It's Christmas week. Welcome in, jingle all the bells, and let's get after it. Welcome to the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network there is. Thanks for joining us for your first listen or watch of the day to get your Monday going the right way. Special shout out to all our everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course our insiders as well. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Coming up on the show today, Seth Trimble's return unlocks North Carolina in a multitude of ways. I will explain some of them. We will have our four corners recap from the Ohio State game, including what happened down the stretch. Yikes. We'll have the shady stat of the game, a quick turnaround to our preview for the ECU game tonight. And of course, we will be live after that game, Carolina's final non-con opportunity. And by the way, while we're talking about the weekend, got to say big thanks, as weird as this is going to feel, to Kentucky for winning, because that just, the more Kentucky wins, the more Kansas wins, etc., the better things are going to look. And the more quad one, it can be quad 1A. And so that's what we're talking about. And while this doesn't necessarily help any of our wins, we see you, Texas Tech, and we thank you. Okay, let's talk about Seth Trimble's return, which is, while Carolina got this big win, their third quad one win of the season, the biggest takeaway is Seth Trimble coming back and being a dude. He didn't just return, he returned in a big way. Here's the thing for me. Unequivocally, without Seth Trimble, North Carolina loses to Ohio State on Saturday. I fully mean every word of that. I do not think that the Tar Heels beat the Buckeyes without Seth Trimble. Having watched that game, I just don't see it. Now, we've talked a good bit lately about what Seth is going to add whenever it is that he comes back. And in particular, when he's ready to be back in the starting lineup, which was surprisingly to me Saturday. Not only was he back and with a vengeance. He brings athleticism. He brings defense. He brings attack mode. He brings some bonus three-pointers on Saturday, which, by the way, I believe that Seth Trimble is a better three-point shooter than people think. It's just last year, the back end of after his head injury, he just wasn't fully back. He's talked about that. He's like, I hated that, and was committed to being much better this time. So the thing is the big question that everyone was asking is what's going to happen when Seth Trimble returns? Well, one of the big things was that Carolina, and we talked about this, needs a consistent third scorer to go with Caleb Wilson and to go with Henri Veesaar. So thing number one that Seth Trimble brings, critically importantly, is that third scorer. Seth, is averaging for the season 15-something points a game, 15.3 points per game. We'll take that. Thank you very much. Last year, what did Seth average? Even after everything, 15.3 points a game. Last year, Seth averaged. No, I'm sorry. I'm looking, that's this year's. I need last year's numbers, people. What are we doing here? Give it to me right now. There we go. 24-25, 11.6. Even after all of everything, right? So this year, Seth averaging 15.3 points a game in his 3 games. And that includes the 17 he just scored on Saturday. And so I truly think Seth Trimble, had he been playing all along, would have been that third scorer Carolina consistently needed. And so when you think about the combination of Caleb Wilson's 19.5, Henri Veesaar's 16.9, and Seth's current 15.3, that's just north of 50 points a game combined between those three. That's exactly what you need. Three guys getting 15 or more points a game. And so do some math with me. You ready for this? Carolina has held every opponent under 75 points. The average is lower than that, but let's just go with that max. The max Carolina is allowed so far is 74. Look, let's be honest. Some opponent's going to score 75 or more points. That's going to happen, guaranteed at some point. But on average, Carolina has not on average, in totality, has not allowed a single opponent to get to 75 points. Caleb, Henri, Seth combined are scoring just north of 50. So that means if you do the math, Carolina, to get the majority of their games in the win column, needs to shoot for 75 or more points, right? That checks out. You get that. So beyond what those three guys are doing, you need the rest of your rotation, the rest of your roster to score 25 more points a game. Think about it. Like if you play fantasy sports, that's how you build things. What do we need to do? I need to get my team to, let's just randomly say 130 points a game. What is my baseline for doing that? Or for example, in this analytics age, have you ever watched Moneyball? One of the things that Jonah Hill's character sits down and does with Brad Pitt's character is says, hey, look, we need to get the A's to the playoffs. We need to get this many runs, this many games, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if we do that, we should make the playoffs. Same thing here. Carolina is basically needs to get to 75 points a game, and they're golden. They're getting more than that right now, and they're holding their opponents to less than that. But if the combination of Luka Bogavac, Jarin Stevenson, Kyan Evans, Dixon, Jonathan Powell, that's your main five beyond those three main scorers. If those five can combine to score 25 points a game, which they all average more than 5 points a game, and that math checks out because 5 times 5 is 25, then you got what you need. And so Seth adds in those 17 points, and now you're unlocked offensively to do what you need to do to, if you're continuing to hold opponents under 75, you win, right? Checks out. It makes sense. So there's that math. But perhaps the biggest revelation from this was that the backup five problem, the backup five issue might now be solved. So those are the two biggest things that at the big picture level anyway, that Seth Trimble's return brings. That third consistent scorer and a fix to the backup five problem. Here's why. We talked about it last week, but the biggest question with Seth coming back, at least for a lot of us, was who then is relegated to the bench? My estimation was that it would be Jarin Stevenson. Not because Jarin doesn't contribute, but for a couple reasons. One, for both Seth and Jarin, the biggest thing they bring is like defense and athleticism, ability to guard a bunch of people. So there was some redundancy there. But also the biggest glaring hole in Carolina's game and in their personnel was a lack of a trusted backup five. Somebody that could come in behind Caleb and Henri and be that guy. With Jarin needing to play the three, he couldn't do that. And so now when you move Jarin Stevenson to the bench, you don't just keep him at the three, you slide him over to where he is now the first big off the bench. And hopefully, unless something changes, hopefully the only true big off the bench. And so to that point on Saturday, you didn't see Jaydon High or James Brown getting any minutes. And I hate that. I would love for those guys to contribute, but they haven't been at the level they need to for Carolina to reach the ceiling that they want to reach. And so when you put Jarin Stevenson on the bench, slide him to the 4 and the 5, now we're talking. Because when you look at that 8 I just mentioned, plus, if you want to add in some Jaden Young or something like that, you've got Seth, Luka, Kyan, Derek, JP in the backcourt / wing. And then you've got Caleb, Henri, and now Jarin Stevenson at the 4 and 5. And that's your 8 guys. And you've got what you need in the front court and you've got what you need in the backcourt. And so what that also does is you might think, well, Jarin's not really a 4 or 5. True. But remember how often last year we talked about Carolina going small or playing small? They didn't have the personnel to do that effectively. Now they do. Jarin Stevenson allows that because of his switch ability. Yes, we would love him, and he would love to hit more threes. That's biggest hole right now. But you see what Jarin brought on Saturday. Offensive rebounds, putbacks, run out in transition. He can guard just about anybody on the floor. And so now with Seth back in the mix, that unlocks a different kind of starting lineup that moves Jarin to the bench and allows him to be the first guy off it. So I love what Seth Trimble's return unlocks, in addition to all the minute individual things he does. The big picture thing is that he provides that third consistent score, and he allows Carolina's personnel to be in the rotation it needs to be in. And that's what we're talking about, and I absolutely love it. So Seth Trimble comes back. This is great, and it puts everybody in the seats on the bus that they need to be in. Now it's time to get to our Four Corners recap of this basketball game and our shady stat of the game. And the first place we got to go to is what happened down the stretch of this Ohio State game to allow the Buckeyes back into it. We'll talk about that and more coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and boom, suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. Maybe think about if you had been live betting the Bears and Packers game on Saturday night, holy smokes, that would have been crazy. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. Oh, shoot, they recovered that onside kick. Boom, I got to make a change. That's what FanDuel lets you do. You can place bets as that action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And it's best. The live betting is best when the game starts to shift. Live spreads, money lines, it all adjusts instantly. Player props update as the guy heats up. You can bet the next touchdown score or the result of this drive. Looking ahead to tonight and Carolina hosting ECU, Tar Heels favored by 27.5. But they might be able to cover that. So think about it. And if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thanks for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listener watch of the day. Thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network out there. By the way, you've heard us talking about our brand new Everydayers Club. Would love for you to be a part of it. There's 2 different tiers. There's the Everydayers and there's the All Access tier. Check it out. The link's in the show notes, or you can find it at lockedontarheels.supercast.com. Come hang out. We'd love to see it. All right, time for the Four Corners recap and the shady stat of the game from Ohio State game. It's all truncated today because we also got to prep for the ECU game. Number 1 in the Four Corners recap. Are you frustrated about Carolina giving up the lead down the stretch? Because I am, and it shouldn't happen. There have been a couple times this season where, think about the Navy game where Carolina choked away a big lead, much bigger than this one. Well, my first thing I will say to you is this. Carolina could have been Duke, who gave up an even bigger lead. The Blue Devils led by 17 early in the second half and lost. Carolina gave up their double-digit lead and then got it back and won the basketball game. So that's the first thing. Carolina still got the win. And so at least as opposed to the Blue Devils, Carolina's learning lesson came with a win attached to it. And that is glorious. So what allowed Ohio State to get back in it? So Carolina was up 11 points with 10.5 minutes to go. And here's the issue, summed up very succinctly. Over the course of the next 7 minutes, so from 10:30 until 3:30, Carolina scored a grand total of 6 points. They had a Caleb Wilson dunk, a Seth Trimble 3, and Caleb Wilson going 1 of 2 at the free throw line. That was it. 2 made field goals, 1 made free throw. And in totality, they shot 2 of 10 from the field and had 2 turnovers. The turnover, it was, you see this kind of run, it's like, oh man, it must have been a turnover fest. It really wasn't. This is Carolina not executing their offense at the level it needs to. Thankfully, and we'll talk about this more in a second, the defense is there, game in and game out, doing what they need to do. And it just looks different with Seth Trimble. It passes the eye test so much more capably with Seth in the mix. But Carolina's offense goes through these stretches where it's kind of inept. And this was part of it. This 7-minute stretch where Carolina went 2 of 10 from the field, scored just 6 points, and allowed OSU to go on a 15-6 run that cut the lead from 11 all the way down to 2. And at that point, it was a back and forth affair for the final 3.5 minutes of the game. And so it's not those closing minutes. It's not even Caleb fouling the three-point shooter, although he should not be doing that, or that deep three that they hit. Those weren't the worst problems. If Carolina had done what they needed to do offensively in the 7 minutes prior to that, none of that matters. It's like, oh, Caleb, you shouldn't have done that, but it doesn't matter. So it's all the stretch before that. Carolina didn't make shots. Carolina didn't execute their offense in the ways they needed to. They have to go back to the drawing board and figure out why that has happened at times. It happened against Michigan State. It happened in the closing 4 minutes against Navy. Those are some moments that have to be cleaned up. You're not going against Michigan State. It caught Carolina. Thankfully, it didn't this one, but it's going to if they don't get things ironed out. Number 2 in the Four Corners recap, there are 3 glaring issues that reared their ugly head. One we just sort of talked about. 2 of the other 2 both have to do with shooting. Number 1 is three-pointers. Carolina as a team is shooting just 32.5%. That is not good enough for a team that could have second or third weekend NCAA tournament aspirations. National champions just simply do not shoot this poorly from beyond the arc. Carolina has got to get better. 3 glaring issues. Number 2, free throw line. You know how bad it is. Carolina just 7 of 13 in this game against Ohio State. They're shooting as a team 68.9% from the free throw line on the season. You got to get up above 70%. I'd love to get to 75, but I don't know if that's going to happen. In both of those things, three-pointers and free throw percentage, Carolina is outside the top 200. In three-point field goal percentage, they're 219th. In free throw percentage, it's worse, 266th. This team has got to start hitting those. Thankfully, right now, they're buoyed by their two-point shooting where they're 57.7%. But they're going to be, teams are just going to start packing the paint. And they're going to start fouling Carolina. Henri Veesaar is inside. He's got an easy dunk. No, I'm going to foul you hard. Make sure you don't make that dunk. And then you're going to go 1 of 2 at the free throw line. And that's a win for my team. Carolina has got to get better. And then the third glaring issue here is the bookends were a struggle in this game. One of the things I've been starting to chart now with the Tar Heels is how they do in their quarter by quarter scoring. I know men's college basketball is halves, but I just look at the score all 4 10-minute segments. In the first 10 minutes of this game, Carolina scored 14 points, which was a season low for the first quarter. We've been talking about getting off to good starts. That wasn't it. And in the final, on the back book in the final 10 minutes, Carolina scored 13 points, which was the second lowest of this season, behind only the Michigan State game where Carolina scored just 10. But those are the 2 lowest, and they were their lowest of the first quarter this season. Thankfully, the second and third quarter were strong, but you got to start better and you got to finish better. Carolina has to be able to have better offense down the stretch. It cost them against Michigan State, and it nearly did against Ohio State. Not good. Four Corners recap point number 3. Carolina's defense is proving to be the weapon that we all hoped it would be. Right now, Carolina is 20th in the nation in points per game allowed at 64.6. So, I was just trying to add the math to get to 75, but the average is 10 and a half points below that. Carolina is only committing 15.2 fouls per game. That's 34th in the nation. Basically, if you divide that in half, Carolina barely getting into the bonus in each half. And I know that's loosey-goosey math, but you get my point. Only 15.2 fouls per game. That's great. Carolina is not only defending well, they're doing so without fouling and sending the team to the free throw line. Carolina is 12th in the nation in defensive rebounds per game at 30 per. And they've moved, the Tar Heels have, back up into second place in 2-point field goal percentage defense, surpassing Duke. Carolina now only trails Michigan, but Carolina's 2-point defense has been so good. It is the weapon we hoped it would be, and it's doing it in a multitude of ways. Four Corners recap point number 4. Turnovers have suddenly become a strength as well, or I should say lack of turnovers. Carolina's not doing much to turn over opponents. 13.2% of their is the turnover percentage for opponents. That makes Carolina 354th in that metric, which is like bottom 10 in the nation. But on the other side, Carolina is doing a wonderful job hanging on to the basketball. Their turnover percentage is just 14.4%, 34th in the nation. That's wonderful. We will live with that. And just like the raw numbers, the non-tempo adjusted numbers, Carolina has single-digit turnovers in 5 of their last 6 games. It's incredible stuff. Got to keep doing it, though. Just got to keep doing that, taking care of the basketball. And it helps when you've got all these guys that can handle it. And that's the thing. And now you bring Seth back into the fold. It's even better. Shady stat of the game. Let me get some shades on here. Carolina now has a season-long assist percentage over 60%. It's sitting at 61% right now. As a reminder, the season-long high of the Hubert Davis era is 54.1%. Carolina is now 7 percentage points above that. This game in particular, Carolina was 78.6%, 22 assists on 28 made baskets. That is a single game regular season record for the Hubert Davis era. That's how good what Carolina did on Saturday was. And that's the shady stat. In fact, like regardless of whether it's regular season or postseason, this is the second best assist percentage of the entire HD era. The best was 85.3%, which is insane. 29 assists on 34 field goals against Marquette in the first round of the 2022 NCAA tournament. And the previous highs, they were at, what did I just say? 78.6 is 76.9 against Syracuse a couple years ago, and 75.2, 72.7. So Carolina blew right on past that to set the brand new single game regular season high for assist percentage in the Hubert Davis era. Great stuff, Tar Heels. 22 assists on 28 made baskets. Incredible stuff. Keep it going. They've been over 66% in now 3 straight games. Let's do it again tonight against ECU. Speaking of which, we got to get ready for that basketball game. ECU coming to the Dean Dome tonight to close out non-con play. I'll get you ready for it. Game prediction and a weekend whip around, all coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time, y'all, there's nothing like college football season. Tailgates, packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the momentum that you remember forever. Heck, now into college basketball season as well. But actually getting tickets to these things, the part that used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, prices jumping up on you at checkout, not anymore because of Game Time. It gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college basketball and football tickets and experiences with just a few taps. Tickets for tonight's game against ECU are as low as $40. Like, you can get in the door of the Dean Dome for $49 tonight. Incredible stuff. If you want to pay more, you can, but that'll get you into the game. Last non-con game of the season. Really, really cool stuff. I love also that they have Game Time has zone deals. You pick the section, Game Time picks the tickets, and you save even more. So take the guesswork out of buying college basketball and football tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Because everything's truncated with both the game recap and game preview, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the Four Corners preview of the ECU game. So right from the Four Corners recap of Ohio State to the Four Corners preview of ECU. Number 1, North Carolina could legitimately hold ECU to 50 points. Here's why. The Pirates are not good from 2, but they are even worse from 3. From 2. They're shooting 46.8%. That's 305th in the nation. 46.8. Reminder, Ohio State coming into the game was like 63% from 2. That's the difference we're talking about. But as bad as that is, they're shooting ECU. You ready for this? 27% from 3. That's 353rd in the nation out of 365 teams. They're averaging 68.4 points per game, which is 332nd in the nation. Oh, and as a reminder, so that's 68.4. Carolina is holding their opponents to 64.6. So that combination of what Carolina is doing defensively and what ECU isn't doing offensively could add up to be a very low scoring effort, and almost certainly will be the 13th straight game to start the season in which Carolina holds their opponent under 75. Incredible stuff. Secondly, on the Four Corners preview, at the same time, one of the things Carolina has to be very careful of is defending without fouling. We talked in the Four Corners recap at how good Carolina has been in that regard. They commit just 15.2 fouls a game, which is 34th in the nation. But the thing is here that ECU causes their opponents to commit 20.6 fouls per game, which is, interestingly enough, 34th in the nation as well. So ECU really good about drawing fouls. Carolina really good about not committing them. I see a strength on strength situation. We'll see which one wins out, and we'll talk about it live after the game tonight. Third in the Four Corners preview. This is the last chance for players to audition for Coach Davis before ACC play starts. You're not happy with your role? Then you got to play better. You got to show up better. You got to do little things better. You got to hustle better. Whatever it is, you got to do it better. If you want to be a critical part of this rotation, whether that's getting into the rotation or getting more minutes in that rotation, tonight's the night. Closing arguments to force Coach Davis's hand to continue your role in ACC play, because this is where stuff starts to get, the circle grows smaller. And I'm just telling you, that's what's going to happen. So if you're Jaydon Young, you need to go out and make a three for a fourth game in a row. You need to, in the same way Jonathan Powell's been doing, compete defensively the entire game, stuff like that. So that's point 3. This is the last time, the last opportunity to audition for Coach Davis. Number 4 in the Four Corners preview, Carolina needs to close out non-con play with a statement win. And I know it's hard to get a statement win against a bad team, but we've seen it multiple times against bad teams this year where Carolina has kind of struggled to dominate. Whether that was the Navy game we talked about earlier, ETSU last week. Who was it that Carolina played that a couple Saturdays ago? Same kind of thing there. Whereas, USC Upstate. We're just like, guys, come on. Tonight's tonight. Got to do it. No excuses. You're back to full strength. And I know Seth is still working his way back in. But now that you got your full collection of players, you got to kill it. So there we go. There's the Four Corners preview. Let me just quickly run through what to expect in this game. 8 p.m. tonight on ACC Network. FanDuel has it Carolina by 27.5. Ken Palm 24. Torvik 27.9. Carolina leads the all-time season record 4-0. Mike Schwartz is ECU's coach. He's in his 4th season. As I record this on Sunday, they are 289th in the net, making this quite easily a quad 4 game. So there's that. They're 269th at Ken Palm, 280th at Torvik, and the offense is woefully worse than the defense. Offense 329 at Ken Palm, 323 at Torvik. Defense 157 at Ken Palm, 172 at Torvik. So defense light years ahead of the offense for this team. We'll see how it plays out. Results this far, ECU is 5-7. Their best win is at home over Buffalo, who's 178 at Ken Palm. They've lost to Michigan State, Richmond, St. Bonaventure, UNC Wilmington, UNC Greensboro, App State, and Charleston Southern. So the losses are piling up here for ECU. And Carolina should take care of business. But, man, I want to see them lock in and just dominate this game from tip to horn. That's what needs to happen. Usual starters for this team. And when I say usual, there ain't much usual about it because ECU has used 8 different starting lineups in their games, none of them more than 3 times. So I'm just going to give you the starting 5 of the last 2 games, and we'll move on from there. At the point guard position, Corey Kalker, who is 6 foot, 175 pounds. He's a junior, 3.3 assists per game to lead team in that scenario. At the 2, Tybo Bailey, who's 6'2", 187-pound sophomore. At the 3, this is the dude you need to know at small forward, Jordan Riley. He's 6'5", 210. He's a senior. He leads the American Conference with 21.7 points per game, so like basically a third of their scoring. He also leads the American in 35.9 minutes played per game. So Jordan Riley is going to play a lot and score a lot. It's kind of similar to Bruce Thornton from Ohio State. Carolina just needs to throw a bunch of dudes at him, wear him out, and make somebody else other than Jordan Riley beat you in this game, because that's what he does usually for ECU. At the power forward, Luke Davis, who's a 6'8", 224-pound senior. And then at the 5, Gio Emejeru, who is a 6'10", 262-pound senior. He's the second leading scorer, the only other double-digit scorer at 13.6 points a game, and he's ECU's leading rebounder at 9.2. So Carolina, again, I need to see them come out and dominate this game. Dominated on the boards, dominated in toughness, all of that to send you into like your Christmas break with your family on a good note, and to end non-con play on a good note. This is the last game. My prediction for it is that Carolina covers the, 27.5? Yes. And wins by exactly 30. I'm going 85-55 in this game. So yes, Carolina will hold, in my opinion, 13 straight opponents to start the season under 75. Very quickly, 2 things that happened in the weekend whip around outside of men's basketball. Women's basketball played on Sunday against Charleston Southern, beat them 93-74. Nyla Brooks leads the way with 19 points off the bench. Similar to the guys, this was the women's last tune-up before ACC play. Wrestling had 2 difficult matches, I should say, over the weekend. Split those. They were at number 6 Nebraska on Friday, lost 9-27, understandably so, but they turned around on Sunday, went to number 12 North Iowa, won 19-13. Boom, we will take it. That's Carolina's highest ranked road victory since the 2017-18 season. Fantastic stuff by the wrestling team. Way to go, fellas. Congrats. Keep it rolling. All right, you guys, again, we will be live tonight after the game. Make plans to come hang out with us. How do you know when we go live? Subscribe to the show on YouTube. Also hit that bell notification on YouTube, because it will send you a notification as soon as I go live, and then you just tap right into it. If you haven't joined the show, subscribe to it on audio as well. It's a great way to stay locked in with the show, help spread the word of it as well. If you haven't joined the brand new Everydayers Club, that's there for you down in the show notes, as is the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. Would love to see you in both those places. All right, you guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Can't wait to talk to you again after the game tonight, but until then, peace.